What's up, everybody? How's it going? Great to see you as always. Hope you had a great weekend, and you know what to do. Hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average to good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad, alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Meola, and we hope you've had a great weekend. That's first and foremost. Second, some of our Americans had a great weekend. We're going to talk about their performances abroad. We're going to talk about MLS Decision Day, playoffs, who failed, who succeeded, all that good stuff. Then we have Johnny Infantino making up rules as he goes. That's what he does as the president of FIFA. Whoa.
There's no making up rules here. Come on now. He rewarded the Supporters Shield champions. That's who gets a bid to the Club World Cup. That just puts respect on the Supporters Shield.
Okay, I love that part of it. I love that part of it. Yes.
There you go.
If you win the Supporters Shield, you get a ticket to the FIFA Club World Cup. However, that was not stated in the rules. And actually, Inter Miami would be the only team to get into this competition based on their domestic performance. Everybody else had to qualify through continental competitions or whatever it is. Anyway, Big Tones, how was your weekend?
It was great. I watched Johnny Infantino. I don't know if you saw Johnny Infantino. He went up in Miami and made up a new rule. Inter Miami's now in the Club World Cup. He made it up right there. And they're going to play their first game at home in Miami in front of 65,000. So they'll kick off the tournament. And
it makes sense. It makes
more
sense.
often than not, you should let people know before the competition starts. But hell, it's FIFA. You do whatever you want.
Leo Messi involved, obviously, that is a pretty big deal. Chuck, I saw a post on social media saying your son's dominated again. Give us the update. What happened?
All right.
Yeah,
we had a little youth soccer roundup before we get into Americans abroad.
Do you want the full context here?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. How much time do we have? Yeah, but give us some context.
I'll try to make it as quick as possible. All right. So we all know when you sign for a club in Europe, your first professional contract, there's discovery rights, right? So the clubs that help develop you, they're entitled to receive payments. But in America,
payments.
We've never done that. We've never done that, right? But one of the clubs I played for 2 years, the Greater Boston Bolts, they would not sign the release of these papers until I paid them $10,000, right? And committed to a few signed jerseys every year I played professional soccer. So every other club said, "We're so happy you played for us. Congrats. We're behind you." Long story short, now I'm playing against the Bolts with my team, my kids' team.
Ooh, wow.
My U9
Spicy.
Team.
I needed
and
that.
They were always a
Thank
rival
you, Chuck.
growing up until I played for them.
I like it.
So here we are. It's a battle. They want to beat me as much as those kids want to beat our kids, right? So we go down 2-0. And I'm like, okay. Then we get one back. It ends 2-1 at half. So I tell these guys, at the very minimum, you have to meet them where they are physicality wise. They're kicking you. They're crunching tackles. You got to rise to that occasion, but still play our game. Don't go away from playing. They like to launch balls, use their physical athletes. I said, no, stick to the way we play. So
wait. Time out, Chuck.
Okay.
I wish you would have maybe talked to the guys in the Mexico game at halftime because it feels like that's what we needed to hear. But keep going.
Okay. So our keeper gets the ball. He plays it to our center back. Our center back plays it back to our keeper, and he's under pressure, and he plays a pass right to their striker, and they score to make it 3-1.
Okay.
I said, guys, we don't panic. It's good. Just keep playing. It will eventually work for us. Just keep the tempo up. We win 6-3.
Oh, look at you!
Hey, look at you!
Man.
You're like Tata Martino against the New England Revolution. You know what I mean? Down a couple goals and score 6 on them.
Tata didn't. I'll tell you right now, Tata did not sweat an ounce, knowing that one Suarez. Yeah, he had him taken care of. But Messi coming off the bench, his first MLS hat trick. Oh, I was calling this game,
by the way.
Tony. How often have you felt, broadcasting a match when you're, especially with the Chicago Fire, you're invested, you want the team to do well, and it is so painful, and you're looking for positives, and it is so painful. I'm like, I bled for this club, all the supporters, and by the way, in the last event, when I went to Boss Nations FC launch event, there were a number of people that came up to me and said, I love this podcast with you, Tony and Jimmy. I absolutely love Call It What You Want. So I just want to throw it there.
Shout out.
There's at least 100 people that came up to me and said, I love this podcast. Just so
love
you know.
it, man.
Wow.
Love it.
But it is so painful to call these games.
Yeah.
And then you see the coaching decisions and the lack of intensity. It just felt like they gave up. So that's what I had to watch. Inter Miami just absolutely boss the Revs after a positive start.
They got Boss Nation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they got Boss Nation.
That's a new verb. I'm full of jokes today, McTowns.
A lot of dad jokes going on already in this.
I'm a dad.
5 minutes.
I'm allowed to do it.
And they're
All right,
not coming for you, which is crazy.
Okay, so Chuck, first of all, did Johnny Infantino call you to get a Club World Cup spot in after that big 6-3 win? Like, what happens now?
Yeah, I actually saw the cell phone, and it was Tata Martino. He picked up. He saw Infantino. He said, "Now we have a reason. Now we got our justification. We knew it was happening, but I needed something. You guys gave it to me. All right, you're in.
I love it. All right, let's talk Americans abroad. Weekend recap. Big Tones, I'm going to come to you first because it's going to be pretty heavy on the AC Milan talk. But Christian Pulisic scored or had a goal contribution. He didn't score in this one. He had an assist, but he has scored or had a goal contribution. I can't speak English right now. In his 7th straight Serie A game. That is ridiculous. Keeping it in Italy. Timo Weah returned from injury in Juve's big 1-0 win over Udinese. Over Lazio. And that was awesome to see him back on the field. Johnny Cardoso back in the team for Real Betis. They're away at Osasuna. Very difficult place to get a result. They win 2-1.
Nowhere.
He played 90 minutes, by the way. Josh Sargent gets an accidental assist off of his face in a 1-1 draw away to Stoke City. Didn't know anything about it. His teammate shot the ball, hit him in the face, fell to his other teammate. The guy scored. Austin Trusty played the full 90. Celtic were up 2-0. His team was up 2-0. They give up 2 goals against Aberdeen. Could have been 3. Crazy finish to that game. VAR stepped in, made it 2-2. A couple goal line clearances for Aberdeen. Crazy game. Lots of fun to watch. Austin Trusty, though, on the second goal that Aberdeen scored, another deflected goal. Remember, he gave up another first deflected goal against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. So he's got to figure out how to stop giving up deflected goals. But any big performances that stand out for you? And Tones, I know it's going to be AC Milan, so let's talk Christian Pulisic.
Well, I mean, that one no doubt sticks out. And of course, I think most of the listeners probably have seen what Christian did on the weekend. I actually think the storyline from an American standpoint there, clearly Christian is playing well, but is Yunus Musa coming on at halftime when the team is a man down, and then the praise that Fonseca gives him after the game for the work rate, the way that he played. Look, I think I'd have to add up the minutes. I don't know that he's gotten like a solid 45 minutes like that the entire season. And in a moment where he benches, well, he doesn't have Teo Hernandez, he benches Tomori, he benches Rafa Leao, so he has options to bring off the bench, and especially Tomori earlier on. He brings on Yunus Musa, and then Christian plays. They played in a 4-4-1. Christian played as the 9 in that, and the work rate was off the charts from those two guys against the Udinese side. If you know that history, this is their bogey team. Like, this is the team that Milan, like every year you go, well, they finished out of Champions League spot a couple years ago because they lost to Udinese. They didn't win a Scudetto because they lost to Udinese. So this is one of those teams that they can't figure out how to beat, or they couldn't figure out how to beat.
This is Costa Rica in Costa Rica.
Yeah, and Fonseca made some decisions, and I think Yunus Musa, we know Christian's going to start every week, right? But I think Yunus Musa may have made some headway here. So it's a storyline at least to look at moving forward here for Musa.
Yeah, I like that. The trust from Fonseca, to your point, is amazing. And he played well and did his job. So to get that feedback after the game about him too, really important. And very curious to see how that plays out over the next couple weeks into the next international break. Chuck, anybody else stand out for you? Obviously, great to see Timo Weah. He should have had an assist.
Yeah.
Douglas Luiz, he had a great cross to the back post. Douglas Luiz should have buried it, but he hit his header wide. It's just nice to see him out there. No matter how he performed, it was nice to see him out there.
And if we watched the last window and learned anything, it was we were lacking pace, right? That the player who can stretch us down the flanks, who gives us that energy burst, and also forces defenders to kind of be on the back foot because they're kind of unaware because he's active. So to have him back is massive. So, and I think he also has a chip on his shoulder. He's learned a lot just from that moment of weakness against Panama. When you go down, you get a red card. You want to get back into the team. You want to show, hey, I can contribute. I want to show I want to be a part of this program. You also want to play under Ancelotti, not Ancelotti, oh God, Pochettino.
He probably wants to play under him too.
Yeah, that would be nice. But
that'd be nice.
To play under Pochettino, I think would give you a nice reason to get back sooner than later.
Yeah, I was excited just to see him back out there and looking pretty fresh, all things considered. Now we got to get Weston McKennie back healthy again. Any other players that stand out? We had Joe Scally.
What about you, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to see Johnny Cardoso get 90 minutes again. I mean, this is his third consecutive start, so he did play a few times prior to the international break.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Jimmy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it applies to Johnny Cardoso. I know the last time he played for the U.S., he had a camp to forget.
It wasn't great. Great.
So knowing the depth in this pool now, and I get he's playing in La Liga, but where is he? Do you think he's ahead of Busio? Do you think he's ahead of Tyler Adams? Do you think he's ahead of McKennie? Do you think he's where do you see him?
That's a great question.
Is he ahead of Aiden Morris in your mind?
I would say
Luca De La Torre.
He's ahead of De La Torre for sure. Aiden Morris, okay. It's. I honestly feel like Pochettino would like to see them together in camp. Where you can kind of do a compare and contrast in real time. You obviously can make notes, but everybody has a different type of playing style. I still feel like Cardoso probably has a slight edge over Aiden Morris. Tanner Tessman, I'd like to see more of him. Obviously, he didn't get to play for Lyon this past weekend. He was on the bench, but didn't come off the bench. So curious to see how that continues to play out for his French club. I think Busio's above him, to be honest, just because of his style of play and the way Pochettino likes to have a little bit of a deep lying playmaker who can join the attacks late and wants the ball in tough situations when we're in build out phase, right? We're working through transitions. So I think Busio actually is probably ahead of him, given what Pochettino saw from Busio and how much he relied on him over those 2 games. Now that everybody's healthy, or hopefully everybody be healthy going into November, well, let's wait and see how he unfurls the starting 11 with everybody available.
Would you put him over Musa?
I think Musa's going to stay out wide. So I think Musa's now in maybe a different conversation, because if he's looking for a player profile, and this is Pochettino, who wants to see more of a Busio-esque type player who can play out of situations with passing, maybe less dribbling, then I think maybe Musa's got more of a future out wide. But that means he's going to be competing with.
Then you got Weah and Dest.
Yeah, you do.
And I'll always be in the camp where you want your best players on the pitch.
Right.
So Weah and Dest will still be better than a majority of the other players on the pitch if you're talking about a starting 11. And they're game changers. So yeah, it's
so
a
Jimmy, you think
he's
going to stay wide? You think Musa?
Why?
I think that experiment failed. No.
Well, not in game 1, right? He scored his first goal for the U.S.
Outside of the goal, though. If you really want to break it down, it wasn't.
No. I mean, he wasn't. He didn't look as comfortable. He's definitely more comfortable centrally, but if you're a coach, right, and you're like, hey, I see this guy, and I know that he played there in his youth academy, and I know that Valencia tried him there, and I know he has the ability to if we can get him isolated in 1v1 situations, he's really a dynamic 1v1 player. And if I was having to defend Musa in a 1v1 situation, I would probably need adult diapers. Like, that would just be not a situation that would be good for me personally. I actually would prefer him defensively to be in the middle because I'd have more help there. But if you can isolate a player like him 1v1, similar to Weah or Dest, if we can get any of our players in those 1v1 situations, that's good for us and bad for the opponent. I wonder, though, when I think about Pochettino's decision to put him there, is it just to create room so he could see Aiden Morris and Busio and some others? Or do they really have maybe a long-term picture of Musa in that potential area of the field?
Don't you think it's hard, though? Yeah, you're right. I think November is going to be pretty revealing with a lot of these guys and how he feels. And I wonder if he says, okay, we've seen Aiden Morris, we've seen Busio. Now I'm going to try 2 other guys for a couple games in the midfield. Now, these have a little bit of meat on the bone, right? Because they mean something, but he still has to get this portfolio of players. I wonder from Musa's standpoint, though, I don't see him playing wide much, although he has twice. He's come on as a sub and has played wide for Milan, but I think they see him as more a central player. Mm-hmm. So if you play basically your whole season centrally, you come to the national team and you're playing wide as a winger, how difficult that is on players, right? Like what I don't know, how successful can you be at that point? And I got the sense that he was really using him there because it's a simpler role, right? Stay wide. You don't have a lot of responsibility of looking around the middle of the field. You got the touch line to help you, so you have a mental picture in your head of where you're going to operate. So he simplified the game. He said to give him confidence. I want to believe that that's why he used him there, but I guess, like you said, Jimmy, we're going to find out next camp.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I when you say that, I think, well, Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, to use two examples, they were playing different roles for their club team than I think they were being different for the national team. But I could be wrong there, right? So sometimes you have to adjust. Maybe
you gotta be flexible.
Maybe it wasn't like
right?
central to go wide. Yeah, of course.
There's some great comments in the chat. Life of Bry, Musa at right wing back, maybe drop one of the sixes between the CBs and build up, allowing both wing backs to get up the field. Mm-hmm. That's one. They'd rather see Fossey out there. That is until Dest is back. Johnny
is
and
Dest
Tyler
a wild
as
card,
a double
Charlie?
pivot. Is he a wild card?
Is he like we're kind of doing all this with the assumption that Dest is going to be the wide player? Like, isn't he the wild card? Like on how Pochettino plays? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but that's kind of the thinking, right?
Well, if he's playing a back four, he's the right back. If he's playing a back three, he's the right wing back. I mean, we saw he miles ahead of anyone who can play that position.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting to see if it's Johnny and Tyler as a double pivot with Weston as a 10. Weston's not a 10. Weston's a true 8.
And Christian played a 10 this weekend, you know, and Brendan's playing there consistently with Leeds. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, and Ivis is dropping this in our private chat, we have more central options in our player pool than we do wing options.
So deep.
So maybe Musa is going to be, again, I go back to, why would you ask Musa to consider that role in 2 consecutive games if you weren't seriously considering having him be an option there? Maybe not all the time, but if we need something in a pinch. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. All right.
Other on opponents.
That's true. That's fair. Other players we should talk about here, Americans abroad. Joe Scally comes out on top against Leonard Maloney in Borussia Mönchengladbach's 3-2 win over Heidenheim. Brendan Aronson plays the full 90. Just talked about him in a 2-0 win over Sheffield United. And then Cole Campbell. We should talk a little bit about Cole Campbell, Texan, 18 years old, just signed a long-term deal with Borussia Dortmund, the black and yellow. He made his first match day squad for the club, or at least recently he just did. In his last 2, or I guess last season, he played for the U19s for black and yellow for Borussia Dortmund. 8 goals and 10 assists in his 22 appearances. So they're very high on him, and obviously that's going to make us very high on him as well. Because we're excited for our young players. I just don't want to overhype these guys. I did go do some research on him to get a little bit more insight on how he's being talked about over in Germany. And the Bundesliga, the main website, Bundesliga.com, said that Cole Campbell plays very similar to Leroy Sané, the number 10 or one of the wingers who played at Man City, plays at Bayern Munich now. And I was like, God damn, that talk about putting pressure on this guy. But he does. He's a left footer, 5'11", very dynamic, good in 1v1 situations, good hold up play for a winger in particular. He can play some 9 as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cole Campbell, but I know that we have a tendency here as a country to overhype our youngest players, and I don't know if that's always in our best interest. So I don't know who wants to jump in on that. Big Tones?
I just think I don't know much about him. I looked him up as you did when Des or whoever sent it out the other day, and I've heard his name. The thing I like the most, he's at a place that appreciates young players.
Yeah,
right. He's at a place that has a history. If he were at an Ajax, or if he's places that appreciate young players, that will give you an opportunity, that are not afraid to play young players. Because if you told me that he was at Chelsea right now, I would look at it a little bit differently, right? But he's in a place that has a history of developing young players. We've seen American players come out of there. So I think that's the thing. 18 years old, you're still in a wait and see, right? But if they think that he's he's good enough to sign him to a first-team contract. Because of their history, they haven't missed on a lot of players. So we'll see how this thing turns out. I think it's too early to say with regards to the national team, but certainly somebody to follow.
Yeah, he plays for our US U19s, so he's not. We're not unaware of him from a national team perspective. He also spent some time with Atlanta United's youth academy as well, so he's in the system, and we're aware of him. And I'm pretty sure we're keeping tabs. So an exciting player to keep your ears and eyes on, Cole Campbell. All right, we're gonna take our first break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about Christian Pulisic and his emerging role, not only as a leader of the U.S. men's national team, but also his club, AC Milan. Is he ready for it? Come back and join us. We'll talk about it.
Christian loves football. This is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets.
The stuff of absolute dreams.
All right, welcome back into Call It What You Want. I'm Conrad Dino alongside Chuck Wagon and Big Tones. And we talked a little bit about what just happened. Let's look forward because we have some big games. Champions League happening again this week. Excited about that. AC Milan hosting Club Brugge. That'll be happening on Tuesday, 12:45 p.m. Eastern. That'll be kickoff time. Monaco and Red Star Belgrade be kicking off at the same time. PSG versus PSV. So a battle of the acronyms there. That'll be at 3 p.m. Eastern. Juve versus Stuttgart. We'll see who Thiago Motta rolls out in that one. Hopefully, Timo Weah gets to start. Real Madrid taking on Borussia Dortmund. That's a great game. That's happening on Tuesday as well. Then on Wednesday, we got Atalanta versus Celtic. Austin Trusty get an opportunity to totally redeem himself against a good team, having to go to Bergamo, getting the results against Giampiero Gasparini and his squad. I'm a big fan of Atalanta and the way that he manages his team. But let's get back to Milan because, Big Tones, I want to talk to you quickly, let's say, about Christian Pulisic because he got man of the match in this past game against Udinese. He had the game-winning assists. He seems to be the guy. Every time we start to see him taking on more and more responsibility, clearly the guy for us, the U.S., we're loving his kind of evolution into being a leader, a true leader of the team. Where do you see him in, let's say, the hierarchy of Milan? Because there seems to be a lot of trust from Paulo Fonseca right now, the manager.
I want to hear this from Tony.
Yeah. I mean, because like you said, Leao didn't start this past game. Teo Hernandez is hurt, I believe, or has a red card. Rafael.
Yeah, he was red carded. Yeah.
Tammy Abraham wasn't in there as well. Not to say you look at him as a leader, but still a big personality in the team. Where does Pulisic fall, do you think, in this?
Well, Calabria, remember, is injured, right? He's the club captain, if you will, but he's out now with injuries. So Emerson Royale's been playing. Well, with regards to this conversation about captain, I feel like he's in a perfect spot. Like, why pile something else on him right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like some other pressure on him that he probably doesn't. Now, it would be a great honor. You're at a massive club, one of the biggest clubs in all of Europe historically. Would he make a good captain? I don't know. We're not in that dressing room. I don't see him as the vocal type of captain. It's more of an
he's
inspirational.
speaking Italian now.
I love it.
Full Italian
interviews.
Yeah,
Italian.
It was great.
Hey.
And by the way, the press he got in for that, I mean, they blew up in Italy and absolutely loved the fact that he tried to speak Italian and did a fairly good job with it. I just don't know. There's a lot of personalities in there. And I don't know if Christian strikes you at the guy that will go up to Rafael Leao or go up to Teo Hernandez when something's wrong.
Like taking a penalty kick?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's obviously a conversation hopefully got sorted out. But, I hope. I mean, I'm a fan of Christian. I make no bones about it. I've been a fan since I had him with the youth national teams. I'm a fan of Milan, so this is like doubly good for me to watch this week in and week out. I don't know that he's the captain of Milan, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah, when I look at their team, you got Leao, obviously strong personality, Teo Hernandez, strong personality, Mike Mignon in goal. Sometimes Big Tones is a goalkeeper captain for many, many years, and rightfully so. You have Tomori, as you mentioned, Alvaro Morata. He's the captain of Spain. He also plays for Milan.
Yeah.
So they got plenty of options to go with here. But I just thought it was interesting because he seems to be the guy that's doing the most consistently for Milan right now. And sometimes managers really appreciate that when you can trust the guy to be 7 or 8 out of 10 every time they step on the field. And that seems to be Christian right now. So let's have this conversation then. Given how well he performed against Udinese, And Chuck will come to you on this first.
Chuck, Jimmy, let me just, before you do that, I just want to say, because I don't want to get this confused, Chuck. I don't think he'd make a bad captain, right? If they gave it to him, I don't think he'd be bad at it. I just don't know in this group if he's the guy that they'd make captain next. I just want to be clear on that.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, do you think Pochettino made the right decision then by sending him back to Milan and not play against Mexico? Just from given how he performed and how fresh he looked against Udinese.
Well, I think a number of things go into it, right? Is where was he at physically? If they do all of the metrics, they do all the testing, and if he looked like he was redlining, and you're gonna now all of a sudden play him against Mexico, and then there's a chance of a setback, then they did absolutely the right thing of saying, is it worth playing a friendly in Mexico with this group? We know who you are. We know what you are to this team, but to potentially pull a muscle or strain a muscle or get injured just to set you back with your club? No, not on this. You're too important to Milan, to us. You need to be super important to Milan so that you're super important to us. Good form. The more you do at Milan, the better it is for us. So in the end, they made the absolute right decision. Now,
yeah, I think in hindsight too, I agree with you.
Yeah, and to build off of what Tony said in terms of the captaincy, he's taking every step towards getting it, and I think it comes with performance. Consistency with your performance. How do you carry yourself? Everyone knows he's super professional. He doesn't just go out, and he's a homebody. And speaking Italian is essential at a club like Milan. You need to speak it, live it, breathe it. And if you do embody the club and it goes with your performance on the pitch, you earn respect of the team completely. You earn the respect of the coach. And then it's the coach to empower you and say, guess what? You're the captain. You lead by example. You don't have to be the outspoken guy. You can lead by example. There are different types of captains, but I could see him very easily, because he has led the U.S. men's national team as captain, especially when Tyler Adams wasn't around, that they say, you know what? You're 26 years old. You're the best, performing the best at Milan right now. You've been the one carrying us. No, take on more responsibility. You can do it. So I would like to see that, because man, that only helps us in the end. The better he plays with Milan, the more he performs with Milan, the higher up the ladder he goes and fulfills his potential, the better it is for us, the more kids he inspires. So I'm all for it.
All right. Well said, Chuck Wagon. I appreciate that. Let's talk now a little bit about MLS Decision Day, the last
hold
day
on.
of the regular season.
I got Chuck triggered.
Oh, no.
Juan Garcia in the comments.
Oh, no.
He said, Chuck is lying. He would never leave a camp while healthy. Correct. If I'm healthy, I'm not leaving. But we don't know where Christian was with his health.
So let me, a little clarity.
He's not 100%.
Okay.
I'm good to go.
Little clarity on this, because I work with Brian Dunseth on the radio, and he was in camp.
Yeah.
This decision was made after the first game. So I initially came on after Jimmy, you and I were on, and I thought this probably was made with Milan ahead of time. And I thought I'd like to see him play 45 in both games. But apparently this decision was made the morning after Panama, right? For the Panama game. So they sat down, they discussed, he wasn't feeling right. And that's when Pochettino made the decision.
All right. That's
there
good.
You go.
That's good info.
Yeah.
Come on.
Get in there.
Juan, don't mess around with me like that.
Chuck, it only took you 27 minutes to get triggered. Way to go,
Juan. Love you, Juan.
JC.
Love you. Way to go. We appreciate you. All right, you know what? Let's save the MLS chatter for our next break. Let's keep this going here with the U.S. and Pochettino in particular. So we got 26 days to go until Jamaica, and we go down to Jamaica for leg one of the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Nations League. So a discussion we were having behind the scenes is what are the three things that we think that Mauricio Pochettino needs to change / improve upon from the October camp ahead or going into these November games? And Big Tones, I'll come to you first. What I know we had our list. Actually, you know what? I'll read our list because we kind of compiled it. The first one is this: get the number 9 more involved. And I think that is of the utmost importance. The second one is lockdown midfield pairing. Who is going to be our 2, potentially 3, depending on how we want to shape up. But if it's a double 6 that we're playing there, double pivot, who do we want there to be there now that we have everybody healthy, with Tyler Adams now on the bench for Bournemouth, who had a big win against Arsenal? now it helps to get a red card and take advantage of that. But Tyler Adams didn't get off the bench, but he was there, which is nice. And then the third thing is refine building out from the back. What are we trying to do and win? And there's a lot of layers to that, I would say, all things considered. Of those three big tones, which one do you want to jump into and talk about?
I'll start with building out of the back, the last one, right? Because it was the for me the most different thing we saw from this national team in a long time, right? With starting with 4 in the back when we had possession, Musa wide as we talked about, Anthony Robinson high up the field on the left hand side, and building out with Scally, Ream, and whoever the partner was for either game with 3 guys. So we hadn't seen that before, really. So if that's how he wants to play, then let's refine it a little bit, because I don't think we did a great job of building through the midfield, especially against Mexico. Actually, against Panama, if you remember, when they put a little bit of pressure on us in the second half, we struggled with that. So if that's what Poch wants to do, let's get it a little bit cleaner this camp.
Okay, I like that. Now, Chuck, as a resident number 9, I'm going to have you touch upon getting the 9s more involved. But I want to give you this stat to chew on, okay? Against Mexico, Josh Sargent had 13 touches and 0 in the attacking penalty area. Brandon Vasquez had 16 touches with less minutes, but also 0 in the attacking penalty area. Against Panama, Sargent had 19 touches, 5 in the attacking penalty area. Ricardo Pepi came on as a sub, ended up scoring 6 touches overall, 1 in the attacking penalty area, which led to a goal. For me, that's not enough.
Nope.
That's not enough touches for these guys. Your thoughts?
So it goes back to what we were talking about with Greg Berhalter. When you had Weston, Eunice, and Tyler Adams, 3 midfielders, 3 dynamic midfielders, but they didn't have any connectivity to the attacking 3, because you had 3 ball winners. They tended to be more comfortable protecting the back 4. And so you saw them winning second balls, being able to switch the point of attack, play Dest, play Christian, but they weren't necessarily underneath the 9. There was no one really supporting the 9. And so the 9, right now with the system that we've played, feels like you're on an island. And I've been there. It is tough. It's tough to continue to just move and work for the team, especially defensively. That's where you feel like, oh, if I can create a turnover, that's the only way I'm going to really get touches on the ball outside of the box, outside of whipping in across and getting lucky. So the 9 either does what Jesus Ferreira was known for, coming all the way back in the midfield, and you have no 9 just to get touches, or you stay high, Josh Sargent, and there's no balls in your feet. Anytime you see the ball, it's a 50-50. It's in the air. God forbid there's a ball into the channel. That doesn't exist. And it's not that we have the paciest striker either. It's not saying, hey, we know if we play it into the space, our guy's going to get there. We got the speed. So you're trying, for Pochettino, he's got to figure out what is that glue? What's that connectivity? Am I playing with a 10 just for that reason? Does that disrupt our balance, the way we build out of the midfield? Or do I play with 2 8s? Do I play with, 3 midfielders that have the flexibility and the permission to kind of roam and get forward? So that's what Pochettino needs to figure out, because right now, any 9, no matter who the hell you are, Balogun to Sargent to Vasquez, you are on an island. It is you to bring other players into the game. No one's bringing you into the game.
I think given how disciplined, or we've seen from Pochettino and his previous clubs, and how purposeful and intentional he is with build-up phases, there's a real emphasis, or at least it feels that way, of how do we create space. So if we want to get Josh Sargent or any of our 9s into those channels, we have to create the space for that to happen. So you need, and I thought we did a better job against Panama for sure than we did against Mexico, where we were playing, we had Christian pinch in, right, with Brendan, and almost like we had 2 10s. And that forced Coco Carrasquilla, the holding midfielder for Panama, to bite, and he's very aggressive. When you have a 6 from another team bite, then all of a sudden you're creating that space that maybe we want to play into to get to our 9. And I don't know how much that happened. Definitely didn't happen a lot against Mexico.
How many, Jimmy,
go ahead.
And Tony, how many balls have you seen played into the feet of the 9?
We don't roll
even an option. Yeah. It's not even an option.
Well, some of it's by design and some of it's because the opponent's taking that away, right?
Yeah, but we don't create space. You know, I mean, you can create space to roll a ball into a guy's feet. We don't do that very much. A lot of it, especially against Mexico, right? Because we got pinned back a little bit, were long balls. Some of them were hopeful balls, and I don't know that we dealt with those very well. But yeah, although in world football these days, right, you generally see center backs that have 3 times as many touches as your nines.
Right.
I would like to think about effective touches for nines, like where you can be dangerous. So if you have whatever you said the numbers were, like 16 or whatever the numbers you were saying earlier, like if you have 16 touches, let's make 3 or 4 of them be really effective touches, right? Where you're looking at goal. If that's all you're going to have in a game, where when you're standing at midfield, we know it's clearly not that effective. It could be if you're starting a counterattack or something, but I think you get the general point, right? Is that let's make them be as effective as possible. And I don't think we're doing that, but we haven't done that for a long time. I kind of joked the other day, like our nines aren't guys who score goals on this national team. Like they score goals at their club team and they come here, and I feel like we don't get a lot of goals out of the number 9 position. Yeah, they've all scored. Pepe has scored, and Balogun has scored, and Sargent, it's been a while, but I mean, he scored in World Cup qualifiers, right? And back in the day, but we don't get a lot of goals from our nines.
Imagine if you had a goal-scoring 9, to relieve the pressure off of Christian, to relieve the pressure off of Dest and Musa and all these players. You had a go-to goal scorer who's banging in goals that draws in everybody, sucks everybody in, and now you have this focus, and that's the space where everyone else likes to operate. Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, Yunus Musa. That's where we'd start to see a lot more flexibility and joy in the attacking third, and that it just doesn't exist right now.
I'd say there's 2 examples that I want all of us to talk about. And for everybody listening, hit us up at Golasso America on all the social media channels to hop in on this part of it. And of course, in the chat, we appreciate you. So you have an Erling Haaland. So this isn't isolated to the U.S., right? A number 9 not getting a lot of touches. Erling Haaland for Man City. Sometimes he'll have games where he's in the teens in touches, right? So and a lot of that is due to teams
by
sitting
design,
basically
though, right?
11 players, 30 yards away from their goal, and there's just no space to find him. So we've got to take all that into consideration. So I want to use him as an example that hey, that's just not isolated to us. It's a problem that's happening everywhere. And then you have Olivier Giroud, and I bring him up because when they won the World Cup, when France won the World Cup in 2018, the guy didn't have 1 goal, but he was so good. Even that, to your point, Chuck, he still had presence. He was so good at holding the ball up. And when he held that ball up as high up as he could, so we in coaching speak, whatever, we try to create depth. So you're trying to create depth. How high can you push or pin the back line of another team? Because that's going to open up space. If you keep dropping back like a Jesus Ferreira, then the back line of another team can just keep creeping forward, and then you have even less and less space to play in.
And he has no pace to get in behind you.
That too. But Giroud was so good at holding the ball up that he could, to your point, Tony, he'd have really effective touches that all of a sudden his link-up play would put Mbappe in a pocket of space where Mbappe is now facing forward and running at defenders. Same with Antoine Griezmann or Ousmane Dembele, whoever else they had on the field. And I don't know if we see enough of that from our team either, from our 9, where we have an out-and-out hold-up player. I think about Mick Brizzle. I think about Brian McBride, who just was so good at that part of the game. And that allowed us to just inch up the field a little bit quicker and get our guys in good spots where they can get have the wind at their back, right? Because we're actually it feels like we're running downhill when you have some momentum and that you can run off a number 9 that can hold the ball up consistently.
Yeah, I mean, McBride's kind of been an outlier for us, right? Like he did something that it was almost blind. You would know better than most as a defender, right? You get in trouble, you have a sense of where McBride was, and you play a ball into him.
Over the top.
And he's gonna hold the ball. Right? We don't really have that type of player. Like we haven't had that type of player for a while, and that's why McBride gets separated in the pile from some other guys, and that Charlie's game was a little bit different than McBride's was, but equally as effective, but in a different way. So that's why you separate yourself from some of the other guys, and we haven't established that. You mentioned Giroud. That's kind of my point with more effective touches, right? So if you only have 16, let's make them as effective as possible, because in this day and age, sometimes that happens. But here's my question, Charlie. I don't care. Give me whoever your best forward, your favorite forward right now in the world is, right? It doesn't matter to me who it is. You just pick the forward. If you put that player in the Mexico game as our number 9 a week ago or whenever the game was, how does that change the game? Right? How does that player change the game?
So
like, well, yeah,
perfect time to talk about if you had Erling Haaland in the team. Okay. So replace Erling Haaland and Sargent. Well, one, Erling Haaland, I think you're going to have players looking to play. Like that's where you're going. There's a clear message to the team that this is our most impactful player in the attacking half. We need to find ways to get him the ball. So you are constantly trying to figure out to feet into the channel, play it into his chest, but you are figuring it. And on top of that, he keeps the ball. So that brings confidence to the team because you're not launching it up and being like, oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to hold up? There are multiple times where Sargent is in a 50-50 battle. He lost them all. So whether it was an aerial duel, whether it was a 50-50, Erling Haaland keeps that for the team. And then you can play off of him. And on top of that, you're whipping balls in the box. You damn well know he's going to get on the end of it. He's just a freak of nature. So I think he impacts the game greatly because, one, now Mexico's not just throwing people forward. They know they're not winning that bullying match there, right? And so there's going to be a little bit more room in the midfield if they do tend to drop. And if they don't, see you later. That ball's over the top. The ball's in the channel, and he's going to get onto it because he has that type of pace. So we don't have that player, essentially. We just don't have that player. So that's where Pochettino has to go, okay, I've been here before where I don't have an Erling Haaland or a Harry Kane or Mbappe and Messi and Neymar. How do I make it work? How do I still find success? And that's going to be on him. I mean, he did it with Southampton, right? He had Jay Rodriguez, who probably had his best season under Pochettino there. So there are ways to try and figure out how to have more touches in the attacking half for the 9, and more importantly, in the box. Like you said, impactful touches where I'm threatening the back line. They're dropping because of my touch, and I'm moving pieces because of my touch and my involvement. And right now it's like prayers.
For me, Erling Haaland has presence, right? It's so hard to teach, but so having that presence. But I think when you have that type of presence, just to put a button on this, you have more urgency, to your point, Chuck, of trying to find that player as much as you possibly can. Now, I look back at the 2022-23 season with Manchester City. Erling Haaland averaged 24 touches a game. So just to kind of give, and I bet you it's even less for Norway, right? Because I feel like Erling Haaland in Norway, be kind of like putting him, not to say I don't know where Norway is world rankings wise, but I think we're above Norway, but
it'd be a good game. I'll tell you that.
It'd be a good game. Odegaard and Haaland.
And
maybe not. Maybe
Oscar Bob. Don't forget Oscar Bob
drinking the good
quality
stuff.
player.
That's a big. They got Sorloth as well. Yeah, they're pretty solid. They're
they got
stacked
some players.
Yeah, wait.
Orlo scored a couple goals this weekend too, right?
Let me just think that through a little bit more before I make any of these broad, huge statements. But yeah, I wonder. I'm sure his touches are just a little bit less. But if Odegaard's feeding you the ball, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, we're going to take our next break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we'll get into some MLS conversations. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
Welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Chuck and Tony, and we are getting into the good stuff here, the stretch run of Call It What You Want, your favorite average to good podcast. Hit us up on Golazo America. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, and then tell all your friends. We'd appreciate that as well. I know we promised MLS, but we did have one topic that we didn't get into, and I want to explore it a little bit, is locking down our midfield pairing. Just very quickly, who do you think, assuming everybody's healthy? And I don't know if Bournemouth's going to risk Tyler Adams flying back to play 2 legs against Jamaica. That'll be
interesting. But it's like you said, like Tony said, it's a game of consequence now. It's not a friendly.
Right.
I know it's Nations League against Jamaica, but it's still a match we need to win. It's not a game that we can. So you got to call in your best players. And Tyler Adams has to be in that team if you're talking about best pairing.
Tyler Adams in a must-win game is in the team. There's not even, it's not even a question. For all the intangibles he brings, how much ground he covers, and that guy's clutch. We saw it against that goal he scored in the Nations League against Mexico. Like, he had no business shooting from there, and he scores an absolute banger. I mean, he's a guy for the big moment, and he's a leader, which I appreciate. So Tyler Adams would be my midfield for sure. I'm just like, I wonder if he's going to go with a Busio type player profile next to him, or will he elect to go with a Musa? What do you think, Big Tones?
But are you saying everybody's healthy, right? So
everybody's healthy. Everybody's
healthy.
Let's
well, Tyler Adams is there, and then you touched on it. What's Pochettino's profile for the next guy? So is it Weston McKennie? For me, I mean, those are the two names that jump off the sheet right away for me. If everybody's healthy, those are still right now. Those are the guys that are the first two. If we're playing with double pivots, then that's where I would go.
Okay, just to continue this conversation, if you could put McKennie at maybe more of an 8, but an advanced 8, so he's almost kind of sneaking into 10 territory.
Greg Berhalter did that a lot. Greg Berhalter, we used to call it a 4-3-3, but it was really a 4-1-4-1 with McKennie playing. Remember Canada game when he scored 2 goals up in Canada and all that? He played as a 4. It was a 4-1-4-1. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're also, I think, incorporating Des, right? And if everyone's fully healthy, or just you're talking about the midfield only?
Yeah, just talking midfield at the moment.
Okay. And by the way, Ivis dropped this little nugget in there. Norway is 47th in the FIFA rankings, and U.S. men's national team is 18th. And I would not, in a million years, think there's that much of a gap between Norway and the U.S.
Yes, I agree with that. But that front three for Norway is sick. Keep going, Chuck.
And he also said, "Are you going to risk Tyler Adams on a dodgy pitch in Kingston?"
Yes, it's a must-win game.
We said we're all healthy, right?
What are we talking about?
Didn't we say they're healthy? Yeah.
Hey, if Tyler Adams is on the bench for a Premier League match, that means he's fully healthy. He's been tested. He's training. I know he played a match midweek heading into the Arsenal game. So the week before. So I know he's good. And if he's healthy, he goes right into the team. Smack dab in the midfield. And then, I mean,
what are we gonna do? Play him only in the World Cup?
Right.
At some point, you got to play, right?
No, this is the real question, gentlemen. Gio Reyna, what are you doing with him right now? And we see the issue with the 10. There's no 10 right now. Brandon Aronson is not ready to play the 10 for the U.S. men's national team at the highest level. So, given that, are you going Christian there? Are you gonna put Gio right in? He hasn't even played a minute. Or are you gonna, figure it out and say we'll move Christian in and figure out Haji Wright on the left, or Timothy Weah is back on the right, so you could put Yunus Musa there. You could just get inventive, but in the end, you got to figure out what's going to happen there.
I still feel I can build up based on what I saw in the Panama game. That if we're in a 4-3-3 on paper to start, it'll end up looking like a 3-4-2-1. So you'll have the build up like we saw, the 3 Scally ended up at the right back, kind of pinching in to make a 3, Jedi bombing forward on the left, whoever's on the right, Musa going forward, Weah, Dest, whoever it is. And then our 2 6s, or our 6 and our 8 and our 10 end up becoming 2 6s, and then the 10 and the other winger pinch in. So you have a box. You have 2. Ultimately, it looks like a box in midfield when you have it drawn out. 2 10s and 2 6s. And we saw that. We saw patterns of play that existed and happened a couple times, which was like, okay, they thought about this, they talked about it, they worked on it, and now we're seeing it. And I thought it worked a few times. And I don't think we're going to try to get away from that. I think it's going to be part of doesn't mean we're going to be that way every single time, and it could be opponent based, but I do think that there could be an element where, for me, it gives Christian a lot of freedom to move around. Because if you're like, hey, you can go wide and Jedi can react to you, or you can come inside and we can help combine with the other midfielders. Or you can go try to be the second striker based on the position of the ball. I like that system, especially for Christian. So I'm curious to see.
Also, it's Jamaica. They play on the counter. They're good on set pieces, not possession. So do you want to go with the team that is best suited to combat that type of style? It's either you keep the ball and you say we're going to pin them back. We're going to be super smart and pragmatic when we have the ball in the attacking half, that we're wary of their speed, and we're not going to commit silly fouls and just play the game the right way, and you play them off the pitch. Or you're going to say, oh, squeaky bum time. We're going to be a little bit more, smart and be in the mid block and just try and test and see if they'll come out. But we know how Jamaica's going to play with Steve McLaren.
Yeah. I'm trying to dodge the Gio Rayo question. Go ahead.
Listen, for me,
I'm watching
he's supposed to be ready for next window anyway, right, is what we're thinking. But if he's healthy right now, I think you bring him into camp. You don't start him. Pochettino has to see him, has to talk to him at some point, has to sit with him, see him interact. Still got to be part of the group. And then you evaluate from there. I mean, Pochettino's got a keen enough eye that he'll see if he likes things. But I think, as Pochettino said in his presser, like a year out, they need everybody playing at some point at their club. I mean, Gio is probably one of the guys he was talking to, right, during that press conference without saying his name.
No, that's a good shout. And you answered the question for me. Thanks, Big Tones. All right, let's talk MLS. We've teased it a little bit. Decision day. Regular season is over. Inter Miami. We're down 2-0 at home to the New England Revolution. And then they brought this Leo Messi guy. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Came off the bench and scored his first ever hat trick. New England just rolled over and said, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. We'll let you guys not only win this game, but set the points record for most points in a regular season.
From New England.
From New England. That's right. 74 points from their 34 games. Pretty impressive. Other big news from the Decision Day roundup. LAFC finished top of the West, coming from a goal down to beat the listless San Jose Earthquakes, who are the worst team in the league. They get the wooden spoon. There's like a legitimate wooden spoon that's given to, I don't know if the club accepts it or not, but their name is now going to be on it. They have to accept it. That's even worse.
Drink soup from it.
Terrible. That's terrible. But LAFC did that. Galaxy lost to Houston Dynamo, so LAFC top of the West. Inter Miami top of the East, obviously. Christian Benteke gets the golden boot. DC United needed to win that game to book their ticket into the playoffs, and they lost at home to Charlotte, which means that Atlanta United went to Orlando and had to win and needed that loss from DC, and they did it. They beat Orlando 2-1, and DC loses, so Atlanta sneaks into it. Now they have to go to Montreal for the play-in game, and if they win that, then they get to go to Miami to take on Inter Miami. That's going to be tough. So we'll get into, there's a playoff bracket there for us. San Jose Earthquakes, as I mentioned, worst team in the league. We'll see how they respond to that. Who are they going to hire?
We got some real, the chat's firing right now.
Oh no.
With all the slander. All right. Miami isn't winning the title.
That's the slander? That was some heat, Chuck. Way to bring the heat.
This is my question. I want to see where you guys sit on this. Is Messi the clear MVP for you, or would you not vote for him?
I didn't vote for him, just to be clear. I voted for Cucho in mine.
Okay,
and
so
Jimmy?
Messi
Would you take that back, Tony?
No. Here, let me just tell you why. Look, I think Messi is the best player in MLS, right? But when Messi was gone for how many games for Inter Miami, they didn't miss a beat.
But is that his problem? Like,
no, it's not.
Dude,
it's his problem. He was the one that was hurt.
15 games, Chuck. He
played 19 games.
Well, he's
right?
Okay. He started.
He's played in more than half the games.
So that for me is not worth.
Barely. We're talking like
53%. No one without the name of Lionel Messi would anybody think about playing 19 games in a 34-game season and giving him the MVP. So my point was the time that he was away, they didn't miss a beat, right? When Cucho doesn't play for Columbus, they're a completely different team. Remember when he got suspended for 2 games, all that stuff? They were a different team at that point. So, and plus he played, they won things, he scores goals. Look, I'm committed to Lionel Messi is the best player in the league. I don't know how else to position that statement. He's the best player in the league. But when you talk about the most valuable player, I still think that Cucho Hernandez was as valuable to Columbus as Messi was to Inter Miami, but he played all the time. So that's where I'm at with it.
Chuck's triggered.
No, I'm not triggered.
Come on.
Cucho Hernandez is worthy of MVP. But my thing is, too, to kind of build off of the value part is Lionel Messi is the best player in the league, and Miami are that much better with him. Yeah, sure, they took care of business, but they also have Luis Suarez, who has 20 goals as well. So, I mean, Look
But
at
Chuck,
what Messi was
I got
able to
some
do in
close
the amount of
friends.
time that he did.
I agree with you. No one's denying. No one's ever denied his greatness, and the numbers are. But I'm talking to people at Inter Miami. I live down here, so I get to see a bunch of these people and talk to them. They don't even think they think Busquets was the most valuable player in their team the entire year. Like these are
that was
Inter
my
Miami
argument because he played the most out of all the
Right.
field players. Busquets
So-
played the most.
So yeah, we're making a discussion about Busquets. Of Messi or Cucho Hernandez, and they're also thinking that Luis Suarez was equally the MVP as Busquets was during the year. So I'm like, okay, maybe we'll all split the votes down there and then give it to somebody else. But that was
Right.
my rationale, not
Yeah.
because I don't think Messi's a great player. Just that's where I voted for it.
What do you think,
Wouldn't it
Jimmy?
undermine the MVP a little bit if you're like, not to say, listen, he's second in goals and third in assists, and he did it in 19 games, which is ridiculous. And if he had a full season and was healthy for all 34, it would be undeniable that he would be the MVP. But it just feels like maybe undermines a little bit of the credibility. Not that
Reverse it,
that
Jimmy. Reverse
What
the
do you-
numbers. Give Cucho, if Cucho was the guy that scored, 19 goals in 19 games? What's Messi, or is it
Messi's
16
got
and 20?
20 goals and 16
Okay.
assists in 19
Okay.
games, but what, 16 starts?
If that were Cucho, we'd be
15
going,
starts.
yeah, but Cucho
15
didn't
starts.
play 34 games. That's what we'd be saying for Cucho Hernandez. We don't say it because it's Lionel Messi.
No,
We don't
say
say it that way.
How it's how Messi has scored those goals and created those goals. It's the fashion in which he does it. He makes it look like he's from another planet.
That makes
Given
him
he's
the best
37
player
years
in the
old.
best
league.
player in the league, best player
He's
in the world.
best player in the
So,
league. I don't know
of all
how else
time.
to say
Best
it.
player of all time.
So for me, it's pretty easy. You're the best player on the best team, a record-setting team. He gets the MVP. And if it's not him, it's better. It sure as hell better be Busquets, because either way,
But it
I'm
wasn't.
always going to
He
be.
wasn't there for 40% of the games.
But Busquets was, and Suarez,
Oh, yeah.
and under
yeah,
and under
I'm
your
with you.
and under your
Yeah.
and under your kind of restrictions, then Suarez should be MVP if you're talking about impact and minutes and stuff like that. But I'm always going to go on the best team. The MVP should come from the best team. They've set the standard. They've
always
set
done that, yeah.
the
Okay.
record, regular
That's fair.
season record. That's all I'm saying. But Cucho Hernandez is extraordinary. He's phenomenal. If they announce tomorrow that Cucho Hernandez won MVP, I would say job well done. You absolutely deserved it, and we all know why Messi didn't win, and that's because of how much time he didn't play.
Right.
He lost, right?
Well,
Because of
what's
injury and all that. So
To Big Tones' point, when the own Inter Miami fans are saying that there are other players that are more valuable,
more
I like that you-
deserving, I'd say.
yeah, okay. I like that you made that distinction, Big Tones, that it's clear Messi's the best player in the league and the best
Yeah,
player
no argument.
in
No
the world,
argument.
best player of all time. Like that, no argument. But as it pertains to being the most valuable player for the best team in the league, yes, he scored those goals. Yes, he had those assists. He won. I would love to see kind of, I don't know if they have expected goals or whatever, some crazy soccer nerd stats out there as to how important one player was for a particular team over
They do have
the
those
duration of the season.
stats.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
We'll let AI this get on
Well,
that.
I haven't figured that out, but I think giving it to Busquets would be like giving the Ballon d'Or to Rodri, right? Like you giving it to somebody who doesn't have the stats of goals and assists, but is clearly a very important player and makes the whole thing work, right? Makes the whole team have success. Anyway, let's talk. Can we get up because I want to have a little prediction here before these playoffs start. This is with everybody. So the chat, you got to hop in as well. Golasso America social media handles, hit us up on the Twitters and Instas and whatever else is out there. Okay.
Hey, yeah,
And
this comment is incredible. Miami gets points for not Messi gets points for not falling victim to Miami nightlife.
That's true. Fair play to that.
That's
All
a
right.
good one.
All right, so I'm gonna list all of the matchups, and then Tones and Chuck and myself are gonna pick who we think is gonna go on to win the 2024 MLS Cup playoffs, and we'll find out afterwards who is the smartest guy ahead of these things kicking off. So Western Conference, we got LA Galaxy taking on the Colorado Rapids. That is a good matchup there. Chris Armas has turned things around with the Rapids, so we'll see how that plays out. Real Salt Lake, Minnesota United, that's a good one. Seattle Sounders, Houston Dynamo. That is tasty. Schmetzer versus Ben Olsen. Let's go. LAFC will take on the wild card winner of a Cascadia Cup rivalry between Vancouver Whitecaps and Portland Timbers. Okay, So let's go there first. Who do you think wins the West? Who's in the final on the West?
LA Galaxy.
LA.
Have the easiest.
They can't cover both teams.
LA Galaxy have the easier path than LAFC.
LA Galaxy have
Colorado have fallen off.
That's fair.
And then RSL Minnesota. Yeah, they're tough, but not anything that we're seeing out of LAFC, Columbus.
Ricky Pooch time. Right? Ricky Pooch time. I could see LA Galaxy making that happen for sure. I do want to say that LAFC cutting their teeth by winning the Open Cup this year, finally winning that, like getting to a final and winning it, I think is going to help them have a little bit of confidence and not be as maybe tense going into these. But we'll have to wait and see. I like the shout, Big Tones. One of the LA teams will probably get to the final. That's a good one. Way to cover that.
Smart
All right,
man.
let's go to the Eastern Conference then. I'm going to let Tones escape with that. We got Columbus Crew taking on the New York Red Bulls, Cincinnati taking on NYCFC, Orlando City taking on Charlotte, Inter Miami taking on the wild card winner of Montreal. And
Hell is real. Hell is real going into
You like Cincinnati?
I think it's going to be Cincinnati versus Columbus in that, next round. And then Columbus gets to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I want to see Orlando Miami. That'll be good in the next round.
Since you just got their first win right in 5 matches, was it, or 4 matches?
Yeah.
All right, they weren't going in. NYCFC, man, they have impressed me over the last couple months. I'm calling the Columbus Red Bull game, and I have Cincy NYCFC over 2 nights on Monday and Tuesday night. I think
got some good games, Tony.
Good games.
Yeah, I got some good ones. I do. I have some good ones there. I wouldn't count NYCFC out of this. I'd love to see Hell is Real again, but I wouldn't count NYC out of this thing.
All right. So who do we have winning the East? I'll go first. I'll say Inter Miami. I know it's a big stretch. Don't roll your eyes, everybody.
You're wild. I can't believe you made
I know. I'm so wild. Listen, they're the Supporter Shield winner. So if they get to the final, they'll host it. And that is Art Basel weekends. It's going to be popping off in Miami.
God.
It's going to be popping off. Anybody is going to be in Miami for that weekend. And for Messi and Suarez and Busquets, Jordi Alba, and the whole team to
in that little rinky-dink stadium.
Yes, I'm manifesting it because I want to go. So
we got Argentina, Colombia, and Uruguay. The fans basically breaking down the Dolphin Stadium and getting into the vents and all that. Now you got this rinky-dink stadium, and they got MLS Cup if they get to it. How the hell are they going to secure that place?
Yeah. No, good shout. So you know what? Let's not pick a champion right now. Let's just pick the finalists. We can do the champion once we get closer to it. I got LAFC and Inter Miami in the final. Chuck,
you are such a.
I know.
All right.
Hey, they're the teams that are the best poised to make a good run and have.
We're doing this already, huh?
Yeah, we are.
I think Galaxy gets to the final.
Okay.
The West.
Galaxy and New England Revolution.
And Columbus Crew versus Inter Miami and Inter Miami. How the hell you gonna bet against the informed Suarez and Messi? Hell no.
Yeah. Tones?
Yeah, I'd like to do something different, but LA Galaxy against Inter Miami.
I'll tell you one thing though. Break calendar is a little shaky. And I think for a player like Cucho Hernandez, you're licking your lips. Diego Rossi, you're licking your lips because
he helped when they got to the Leagues Cup.
Did you not watch the Revs game?
I did.
Man,
I did.
There are times where he makes the great save, but he's so inconsistent with just his normal movements, and decision making. So that is the only thing that you'd say, oh, hold on a second. Inter Miami aren't as secure as you may have thought.
All right. It's a little Jake Calendar slander to end the show. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Change your pick? Change your pick.
Change your pick then.
No, you change your MVP pick.
No, it's in already.
No.
All right. Join us again at 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. We'll be here live on the Glosso America YouTube channel. This has been a great conversation hanging out with my pals, Chuck and Big Tones. Appreciate everybody behind the scenes for making us look better than we deserve to be. We appreciate your support. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next time.
You only triggered me once.
We love you,
Much
Jack.
love.
Later.